Hey guys, what's up? It's me, Thomas. Today we're back here with Film Theory, and today, well, we're off to the Monsterverse for this one. So, this one's called Godzilla and Kong's next fight could be their last. Oh, this is gonna be interesting. I mean, I'm not sure what the evidence is, but it does sound like Godzilla might, or actually, who do you think might pass away? Godzilla or Kong? Who knows? Well, I guess we're about to find out, so let's see what the theory is. Be sure to like, subscribe for more, hope you enjoy. Let's check it out.
Out of all of the cinematic universes from the 2010s, no one expected Godzilla and Kong to be the one to reign supreme at the box office this year. What can I say? People like to see giant monsters fight. But do you know what would make that even better? These giant monsters fighting giant robot mech suits. And that, my friends, is exactly where the Monsterverse is headed.
Wait, so it's crossover with Pacific Rim next? That's a big one. Oh,
Hello,
wait,
Internet.
I think I know the
Welcome to Film Theory, the show that wants you to take a kaiju-sized bite out of that subscribe button. So, after struggling a bit during the past decade, Godzilla's been having a really big year, huh? Fan-driven projects like Unknowingly's The Man in the Suit have been blowing up on YouTube. The Japanese film Godzilla Minus One was a huge hit and won the franchise its first Oscar. Monarch: Legacy of the Monsters was one of Apple TV's biggest hits last year. And the latest Monsterverse movie, Godzilla Kong: The New Empire, is the second biggest movie of the year so far, leaving audiences chomping at the bit for more. And hey, I get it. When your movie features a giant monkey with a robot arm fist fighting a dinosaur lizard that eats radiation on the pyramids of Giza, it's kind of hard not to be a crowd pleaser. No doubt, Godzilla and Kong are having a moment in pop culture, and everyone involved is tripling down on it. The team behind Minus One have started work on another film, Monarch is moving ahead with a second season and multiple spin-off shows, and most importantly for us today, Hollywood is hard at work on a script for the follow-up to Godzilla Kong, and that is exciting.
Really?
I love these big dumb movies about big dumb monsters fighting, so any chance we get to talk about them, I'm in. We've done shorts about Godzilla Kong, we've made officially licensed Godzilla Kong apparel. It's high time we revisit this series with a good old-fashioned theory, a prediction about what's to come. Because, let me tell you, there are so many hints in this latest movie about their future plans that based solely on what we see in Godzilla Kong: The New Empire, and what we almost didn't see, we can predict exactly where the future of this franchise is headed. Here's a hint for you. The next kaiju that Godzilla and Kong are going to be fighting will be out of this world. And what's more, they won't be alone. There's a third franchise about to cross over into the Monsterverse, and this one has some big dumb giant robots. Charge your atomic breath and equip your robot hands, loyal theorists. It's time to lay the smackdown on the future of the Monsterverse. So, in case you need...
So, honestly, I thought he wasn't talking about Pacific Rim, because I know there was actually a mecha in, like, the Godzilla universe, Jet Jaguar? Or at least I think it's a mech. I don't know. I haven't really seen Jet Jaguar in a while. Like, I know he was in, like, the Netflix Godzilla recently. Or, I think it's more, like I said, weird thing, but I thought he was talking about that, but nope, he actually was talking about Pacific Rim. Which is kind of surprising. We haven't seen it much since the second movie, you know? So I'm not sure how they would incorporate that. Or, actually, are they even connected? Actually, for the space one, there are a lot. And we already had King Ghidorah. So, Destroya, maybe? At least that's the only space one I know. The others are more Earth-based. Destroya, aka Space Godzilla? Not so much. Like I said, I'm kind of throwing it out there. Mostly, like, what I know about the franchise, at least. I mean, if you guys know, let me know, but am I close? Anyway, let's just get to the theory.
A quick refresher on the surprisingly complicated lore of the Monsterverse, let's get on the same page. In this world, there are giant monsters collectively known as Titans. They've always been here in one form or another, and likely inspired most of the gods and demons of ancient cultures. Many of these Titans are intelligent. Some are good, others evil, some are just like big, wild, feral animals. The most powerful of these is Godzilla, the king of the monsters. He basically keeps all of the others in check, but has been in hibernation for potentially millions millions of years. That time frame is really frustratingly unclear. Meanwhile, there's also a large species of giant apes worshipped by early human civilization that have been pushed to the brink of extinction. Only one remains, known as Kong, who has lived most of his life on the isolated Skull Island. Cut to the 20th century, where nuclear testing awakens Godzilla, and Kong is discovered on Skull Island by explorers connected to a mysterious Titan researching organization called Monarch.
After World War II,
several movies of Godzilla and Kong fighting and or teaming up with one another, humans or
mostly
other Titans.
teaming.
And we end up at the current status quo of Godzilla roaming the surface of the Earth, keeping Titans in check, while Kong looks after a giant cavern in the Earth's crust known as Hollow Earth. Yeah, Hollow Earth is a thing in this world, just roll with it. That leads us into Godzilla Kong, the New Empire, which sees Kong discovering more giant monkeys in Hollow Earth, led by an evil monkey called the Scar King. You can tell this guy is bad news because he dropkicks Baby Kong's dad into lava. Anyway, Scar King has a magic crystal that lets him control another new ice titan named Shimo, whom he leads to the surface to start a brand new ice age and kill off humanity once and for all. This understandably makes Godzilla angry, leading to a big team-up that leaves the Scar King dead, Shimo freed, and Kong the new king of the Hollow Earth. All the while, the human characters from Monarch are also there, and the filmmakers really try to make us like them to mixed results. I mean, this is a movie where Kong uses a giant baby monkey as a baseball bat. We're not supposed to care about Shiro Shirazawa or Dr. Irene Andrews. I can prove it because one of those characters isn't in this movie, and you probably didn't notice. So that's what's happened, but what happens next? Where are the next Godzilla and Kong movies headed, and what sort of monsters will they be fighting? Well, I believe the answer lies in the latest dangling thread introduced in Godzilla Kong. The weird magic crystals.
Those pyramids.
Yeah, these crystals were a sort of recurring story element in this movie. The Iwu people, native to Hollow Earth, use these crystals as a sort of power source that reacts to bioelectricity in the same way that Godzilla's spines charge up his atomic breath. This is partially what leads to the cool zero-gravity fight halfway through the movie. Additionally, a similar sort of crystal is at the end of the whip used by Scar King. Remember that awesome weapon made out of like a kaiju spine? Yeah, that crystal at the end there seems to give him some sort of telepathic control over the ice kaiju Shimo, implying that it's the same sort of crystal used by the Iwu, since their crystals let them communicate telepathically and send out distress signals to the surface world. Once that crystal on Scar's whip is destroyed, Shimo is freed and turns on Scar, teaming up with Godzilla and Kong to kill him. But what is this thing? What are any of these crystals? Well, one possibility, they're the remnants of a meteor. See, all throughout Godzilla Kong, we're told that the Iwu call Godzilla
the monster who ate a star.
a star, and especially one that has fallen to Earth enough to be eaten by Godzilla, is almost certainly how an ancient civilization would interpret a meteor impact, especially one that Godzilla somehow stopped or incorporated into his body so he could charge up his atomic breath. Additionally, we see Godzilla survive a similar meteor impact on Earth in the comic book Godzilla Awakening, published in 2014, though it should be said that this was one of the first bits of extended MonsterVerse material and has since been contradicted by later films, so it's probably not canon anymore. That being said, it does tell us that Godzilla and how he interacts with meteors has been on the minds of the people behind the MonsterVerse since basically the beginning. It wouldn't be surprising that this element got recycled in later stories, like in The New Empire. But real quick, let's take a moment to talk about another Titan, the sponsor for today's theory, Incogni. Tell me, have you ever noticed...
I'm gonna go and skip this bit. Just saying, I don't think you guys want to hear a sponsor right now, but... Well, anywho, I mean, like I said, I'm still keeping to, like, the whole, like, space destroyer coming here, but... I mean, I'm guessing here, since that's the only reason... And not to mention, Destroyer's got those big-ass crystals that could basically lift, you know, kaijus like Godzilla. So, there is that, so... Again, I'm not sure if I'm correct, but... Let's just keep going.
Annual plan. Thanks again to Incogni, and now let's wade back into the water with Godzilla and Kong. Now, those meteors might be all well and good, but why does it matter? Why do these magic crystals being actually a meteor mean anything? Well, to classic kaiju fans, Godzilla plus crystals plus meteors adds up to one thing: Space Godzilla. If you don't know, Space Godzilla is, well, I mean, it's exactly what's written on the tin. He's an alien clone of Godzilla from outer space, and the primary villain of
called
Godzilla
Destroyer?
versus Space Godzilla. Really, these movies just get right to the point, don't they?
I think it was
The whole
Heisei
shtick of this
back in the
guy
day,
was
too.
that some of Godzilla's blood merges with an alien made of crystal, creating a new hybrid creature bent on taking over the Earth. That sounds exactly like the sort of bad guy they'd fight in the Monsterverse, right? An alien titan who wants to conquer the world. And hey, if you think that aliens are just a step too
you ain't
far
wrong.
here,
We
remember
did
that
have
this is
Ghidorah, who
already a
was
thing
from
in the
space.
Monsterverse. We learn in Godzilla, King of the Monsters, that King Ghidorah is an alien.
It tells of a great dragon who fell from the stars. Yes, he's
See?
not part of our natural order.
Fell from the stars, huh? Doesn't that sound an awful lot like the language used by the Iwu to describe Godzilla, the monster who ate a star? All of the stars are aligning here and pointing to Space Godzilla as the next true big bad that Godzilla and Kong will have to beat into submission. But that being said, there's one
gotta
big
be
old
more.
monkey wrench we have to throw into this particular
How do
scenario.
we beat it?
What if Legendary Pictures, the people who make these movies, can't actually use Space Godzilla? See, Legendary only outright owns the rights to their version of Kong and the original titans created for these movies. The classic Japanese kaiju from the Godzilla franchise, including Mothra, Rodan, King Ghidorah, and the King of the Monsters himself, those are all owned by Toho, the Japanese studio that originally created them decades ago. Any and every time Legendary
So they gotta
wants
get
to
Toho's
use them in the
permission
Monsterverse,
before they
have
do
to
it.
license them from Toho. In fact, it was big news when Legendary confirmed that they'd secured the licenses for Ghidorah, Rodan, and Mothra to join the Monsterverse. And while
much
the
are
price
those
tag for
licenses?
these monsters isn't public, it does not come cheap. For this latest Godzilla Kong, scenes involving Mothra were actually shot using an entirely different original character as a placeholder, just in case they couldn't get the clearance to use Mothra again. And this wasn't just some corporate standoffishness, there was a real chance that that was going to happen. After the disaster that was the 1998 American Godzilla movie, Toho is notoriously protective of their characters and IP, and even if they cleared the use of Godzilla for a movie, that doesn't necessarily mean that they'd do the same for any of the other kaiju. That's a really big what if to hang your $100 million movie on, given that the rug could get pulled out from under you at any point. So what's Legendary's solution here? Well, there are a couple directions they could take to sort of work around this problem if they don't get the rights to any of Godzilla's other famous foes.
We'll see.
They could either invent their own new enemies for Godzilla and Kong to fight, or
Like
they
with
could
the
own
Muto?
something they do have the rights to. Now, that first option, absolutely valid, and after all, that is what has been done for the Monsterverse with the Scar King, Shimo, Scylla, and Tiamat. But those characters were just fine. Not really super exciting.
I mean,
or
Tiamat
memorable,
got
if we're honest.
absorbed by
In fact,
Godzilla.
there were a lot of people who thought and hoped that Scylla, the big crab thing that Godzilla fought the last couple of movies, was actually Kumonga, another part of his classic rogues gallery. So sure, Legendary could create new monsters, their own version of Space Godzilla for Kong and Godzilla to fight. Or they could go with option number 2, another crossover with something that they do have the rights to. But I wonder, what could that be? 2 words, loyal theorists. Pacific Rim.
We are canceling the apocalypse!
If you don't remember Pacific Rim, that's an absolute tragedy. This was one of the coolest movies of the 2010s, all about a world under constant assault by alien kaiju coming out of a portal at the bottom of the Pacific Ocean. To fight them, humanity developed giant robot mech suits called Jaegers, piloted by 2 or more humans psychically linked. Though the film struggled at the box office, it was a huge hit with critics, audiences, and industry professionals. And the best parts for Legendary? They outright own the Pacific Rim IP, everything in it, and have tried multiple times to continue it with sequels and spin-off shows. Plus, franchise creator Guillermo del Toro and the sequel's director Stephen DeKnight have independently said that they want Pacific Rim to cross over into the Monsterverse. There is a real interest in continuing this franchise from everyone involved. No giant legal loopholes to jump through, and what better way to juice it up than connecting it with the other biggest kaiju IP on the planet, Godzilla and Kong. But hold up, even if this makes business sense, why would it make story sense? Why would I say that Pacific Rim is set to cross over at all?
Like they have a connection
there are a lot of signs towards this crossover happening, all from the new Empire alone. Firstly, after Godzilla wakes up from his catnap in Rome, we get a brief glimpse of a wall covered in graffiti, almost all of which are Easter eggs to other kaiju movies. But over here on the side, we can see a crude rendition of Pacific Rim's most famous kaiju, Knifehead. That right there is again proof that Pacific Pacific Rim was on the minds of these filmmakers and that it hasn't been forgotten by Legendary. But that's just one Easter egg on a wall covered in them. It's not like it's outright proof that Monarch is like developing Jaeger mechs or anything, right? No, of course.
Well, I mean,
that happens later in the movie. Yeah, you know that cool robot hand power-up that Kong is given about halfway through the movie? As its backstory is being explained, we get a real good look at the blueprints for the device. And what do you know? They're the blueprints for Gypsy Danger, the Jaeger mech that was the poster robot for Pacific Rim. And it's not like it just kinda looks like Gypsy Danger, they are straight up the same robot. If you pause this scene and zoom in on the details here written on the blueprints, they explain that the robot arm will feature stuff like a retractable chainsword and a switchblade mod. Things used in the actual Pacific Rim movie. Little details like that being put in Godzilla Kong were not an accident. Bits of lore have been communicated to us in these sorts of blink and you miss it moments before, and this is canonical proof that the humans in this world are developing giant mech suits. Now, obviously,
Can you
the
blame
world
them?
set up
I probably
in
would
Pacific
that too.
Rim is impossible to integrate into the MonsterVerse as is. As cool as it would be, we're not gonna see these characters or mechs or kaiju literally pop in from a portal from the Pacific Rimiverse. If anything, it would be sort of a soft reboot bringing in elements from Pacific Rim to fit within the MonsterVerse, but disconnected from the old
That I could
films.
see that.
But all of the pieces needed are there. We just proved that Monarch has developed blueprints for a mech. Tech exists in the MonsterVerse that can link minds, a la the Jaeger pilots in Pacific Rim, as we see with Rin Serizawa connecting his mind with Ghidorah's in Godzilla vs. Kong, which, hey, wouldn't you know it, is similar to story elements involving Charlie Day's character from Pacific Rim. We know that Monarch is concerned about relying solely on Kong to protect humanity,
After Mechagodzilla,
And Kong.
we realized that there were some threats that even Kong couldn't face.
thus giving them motivation to make the mechs. And most importantly, thematically, we're at a point in the story where the general public is probably fed up with these kaiju destroying their cities, and they might want a real way for humans to fight back. I mean, just look at what happened in the New Empire. Sure, a new ice age got averted, and the Scar King caught a pretty well-deserved beatdown. But Monarch did an awful job at trying to keep these monsters in check, and any explanation for this latest victory probably isn't gonna fly. Like, could you imagine? Yes, it was worth Godzilla and Kong destroying the pyramids and most of downtown Rio to kill one big giant monkey. Humanity is gonna want something that isn't a giant lizard with anger issues or a great ape who speaks sign language to help them fight back against the next threat. Plus, piloted mechs would give the human characters that no one cares about something exciting to do. Like, might as well if Legendary insists on shoving them into every single one of these movies. Oh, and the best part? The cherry on top? This would even fit in the same story as Space Godzilla. The plot of the original Japanese Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla sees the king of the monsters team up with a human-made robot named Mogura to defeat the big bad. That is literally what we've just seen the MonsterVerse put all of the pieces in place for. This series is headed for a crossover with Pacific Rim. Monarch is going to develop Jaeger mechs, using the same Neuralink drift technology used to connect a human brain with Ghidorah to pilot Mecha Godzilla, but this time with two humans piloting a giant robot. Space Godzilla, or some original knockoff monster, will come to Earth with kaiju minions like Knifehead, and using the same mind control crystal magic they set up in the New Empire, they'll pit Godzilla vs. Kong once again, forcing the new Jaeger mechs into action. They'll fight and destroy another irreplaceable world landmark before teaming up against Space Godzilla and saving the world. Well, at least until the next time they need a monster hit at the box office. But hey, that's just a theory. A film theory. And cut. And if you want to know...
Yeah, honestly, I think I could see that, but, again, it really depends on how Toho wants to go about it. Wouldn't be surprised if they actually did include a mech, because, like I said, Jet Jaguar, that's a thing. But, again, I don't think Toho is going to let that happen. Or, maybe they will. Who knows? You know? Well, let me know what your thoughts would be. Till next time, like, subscribe for more. Adios.